Hello and welcome to day 2 of the 2020 CBI Annual Conference. We have a fascinating day ahead, an extraordinary lineup of people. We're going to be talking about Britain's place in the world, how Britain is going to earn its way in the world at 10:30. I won't give you the whole cast list, but Alison Rose, the Chief Executive of NatWest, will be joining us. Later on, Carolyn Fairburn, the Director General of the CBI, is going to be talking about the COP26 agenda, the agenda for the G7 countries, and indeed for the B7, the group of CBI-like associations around the world, and their role in the recovery of 2021. We're going to be hearing from Bernard Looney, the Chief Executive of BP. We're going to be talking particularly about job creation. Francis O'Grady of the TUC will be joining us. And we're going to be talking too about how businesses work, how they operate within the context of COVID-19. And at the end of the day, Dido Harding, who's been running Test and Trace, will be joining us. That's a fraction of the cast list for today. So do stick with us on day 2 of the CBI Annual Conference. But we kick off with the address from the President of the CBI. I'm delighted this morning to introduce Lord Bilimoria. Karan, over to you.
James, thank you very much, and good morning. Welcome to day 2 of the CBI's 2020 Annual Conference. I'd like to thank our strategic partners, Hayes and Accenture, very much for their support. And what a day. With the US elections today, however, sadly, overnight, the tragic news from Vienna. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all those affected and to everyone in Austria. Now, as you know, this is my first annual conference as CBI President. For years, I've been a passionate supporter of British industry. You're the most innovative, most productive, most creative companies. But little did I know that I would begin my term as CBI President in the midst of the biggest health challenge in a century and the deepest UK recession in living memory. And this crisis has taken its toll. High streets deserted, production lines silent, millions of people's livelihoods at risk. And I know how hard all of you have worked over the past 7 months to make your businesses COVID secure. And we all wanted to desperately avoid this second lockdown. There's no denying, for many businesses, this heralds a really tough, bleak winter ahead. And yet, despite all of this, I remain really optimistic about the future. And that's a simple reason for that. And that is that business stepped up. Firms and key workers in every sector, in every part of the UK, work day and night to keep the country going. We used to marvel at China, building hospitals, those television images of those bulldozers in China, building hospitals from scratch in days. Well, we now know that in the middle of a public health crisis, we too can build a hospital with 4,000 critical care beds in just 9 days. And that's the armed forces, including the Gurkhas, the private sector, the universities, and the National Health Service and government all working collaboratively together. And we've experienced an innovation earthquake. In the midst of the pandemic, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, said that 2 years' worth of digital transformation happened in just 2 months. At every stage of this crisis, the CBI, working with its members, government, and unions, fought to protect jobs and livelihoods. And the government responded with one of the most ambitious packages in the world. What a rescue package. Almost 9 million people supported on furlough, another 2.3 million self-employed people supported, 1.3 million 100% government guaranteed bounce back loans, which have saved thousands of businesses and thousands of jobs, and in particular, saved and helped SMEs, the engine of our economy. And the government has had to move fast. And not every detail has been right the first time. The team at the Department of Business, the Treasury, the Chancellor, they all deserve huge credit. And so do our wonderful team at the CBI, over 200 talented, energetic, enthusiastic professionals in the UK, in Brussels, in Washington, in Beijing, in Delhi. It is their amazing depth and breadth of expertise that set the CBI apart and make us the premier business organization in this country by far, adding value to our members and to the country. And I want to thank my predecessor, John Allen. I want to thank him for his mentorship and his guidance while I was vice president for a year, shadowing him, learning from him before I took over the presidency in June. And above all, I want to thank you, our members, our CBI members, 190,000 businesses employing 7 million people, 1/3 of the private sector workforce in this country, from every size and every sector and every corner of the United Kingdom, speaking out, sharing your insights to guide us. Thank you. And because of the steps you've taken to protect your staff and customers, putting people first, the business support measures we now have in place, and the knowledge and experience we've gained as a country on the action needed to get us through and out to the other side of this pandemic, all show that despite the challenges ahead, we have the agility, we have the ingenuity, and we have the collaborative spirit to come through this. As the great Irish author James Joyce said, "I am tomorrow what I establish today." And with this in mind, I just want to say a few words about the power of UK enterprise and innovation, nationally and globally, to help us to navigate to the next stage of this historic crisis and to rebuild. Starting first with those immediate fires burning around us and the action that we need to bring the virus under control, saving as many jobs as possible. It's not going to be easy, but it can be done. At the CBI, we believe that our path out of this crisis must be built on 3 rock-solid pillars. Pillar 1, we must rediscover our nation's sense of common purpose. Recently, we've seen the public unity that defined the start of this crisis begin to fracture. Solidarity has turned to political partisanship, clarity to confusion, and hope to doubt. And if we're to repair that break and restore that trust, we need to rediscover the spirit of common humanity that has brought us this far. So what does this mean in practice? It means focused efforts to explain government policies and the health evidence behind them, with transparency about the criteria for tightening or lifting restrictions. It means collaboration. It means building trust between central and local government. It means Whitehall and Town Hall, policy makers working with business and trade unions, and it means involving more people local to the areas impacted in the decision-making process. That's point 1. Pillar 2 is working with business. Government must build a robust bridge to the other side of this pandemic. We have to protect lives and livelihoods. We have to protect the future of our young people who have suffered so much. And as we're trying to flatten the curve of the disease, we need to flatten the curve of looming unemployment by maintaining business support to keep us going until we emerge from the second lockdown and until we find a vaccine or can safely reopen for good. Reinstating furlough was a vital step, providing instant relief and protecting jobs. The Chancellor must now commit to keeping the job retention scheme in place for at least as long as the lockdown lasts, and chart a smooth path to the job support scheme as the economy gradually begins to reopen again, the reformed job support scheme. The Chancellor must extend grant support to all those businesses closed through the new lockdown. That's a really good positive move. But this must go further. More grants should be extended to help businesses in supply chains, not just those who are closed, so that the whole economy can survive and thrive. And we need to take action now to support the business investment that will help create the jobs of the future. Possible ideas here include vouchers for SMEs to invest in digital technologies, as well as further assistance to support business innovation and growth finance. And across all of this, with lockdown measures reintroduced, it's more important than ever that business and government work together. That sense of collaboration will empower businesses to do what they do best, taking a lead in getting us through this crisis. As our Director General, Dame Carolyn Fairbairn, said yesterday, bring business into planning formally up front, not tail end Charlie, not as an afterthought, having to business come with a begging bowl, asking for support. Because it's business that creates the jobs, business that supports livelihoods, business that pays the taxes and funds the public services that we all benefit from. And then pillar 3, we need to leapfrog progress on rapid mass testing. A proper rapid mass testing regime could transform the way we live and work in the coming months. I've seen firsthand, as the proud Chancellor of the University of Birmingham, the benefits of testing, when our professors were involved in supervising the testing that enabled the English Premier League season to be completed this summer. Regular twice-a-week testing meant that those found positive were immediately isolated and the rest were able to carry on. And those games continue to this day. No game was cancelled. So the government's moonshot ambitions are spot on. They're exactly right. We need reliable, rapid mass testing as soon as is humanly possible. But crucially, in the meantime, we mustn't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So it is a breakthrough to hear government support for rapid mass testing, and we urge the government to continue to consider a wide range of testing options, to be as ambitious as possible, looking at international best practice. We need quick, affordable, mass antigen testing now. This is an incredibly fast-developing market. New tests are being developed as we speak. And let me say, the pilot in Liverpool announced today is the first true chink of light, that rapid mass testing can move from warm words of action to action on the ground. The findings from this pilot should allow restrictions to be much more focused and self-isolation to be much better targeted so that we can genuinely get on top of the virus. So in the UK, we need to move quickly to validate and pilot a range of tests that will work in different situations. Tests that are accurate, tests that are easy to use, and tests that work well in practice. Even if these tests are marginally less accurate than the gold standard, this can be mitigated by frequent testing. It's the key to reopening our economy safely and to our economy being able to fire on all cylinders. From schools, universities, airports, manufacturing plants, logistic depots, warehouses, construction sites, all this with the right government guidance in place. So that's the CBI's blueprint to help frame the UK's COVID response. And in the words of Alan Turing, though we can only see a short distance ahead, we can see plenty there that needs to be done. And as we've said, we need to use these next 4 weeks of lockdown to roll out this rapid mass testing at speed. In March, at the beginning of this crisis, Professor John Quelch, formerly at Harvard Business School and Dean of the London Business School for a while, someone I've known for many years, sent me his 7 C's for leadership that would be needed during the coronavirus crisis. Calm, confidence, communication, collaboration, community, compassion, and cash. How true these 7 C's have been throughout the past 8 months. But as a country, we also need to be looking longer term, driving demand, creating jobs, and strengthening the UK's competitiveness to bounce back as quickly as possible. And for me, that's 3 big priorities. To deliver on the UK's promise as one of the world's best, most global, open economies, and one of the best places in the world to create and grow a business, where every person can realize their ambitions, and building on our reputation as one of the world's top 3 destinations for inward investment and one of the world's leading countries for entrepreneurship. Starting with one of the biggest opportunities of all, diversity. I moved to the UK from India as a student, as a 19-year-old. This country has given me all the wonderful opportunities, including to be able to start and build my business from scratch, which I'm proud to say is now a household name. And I want to make certain that more talented people, particularly from Black, Asian, and minority ethnic backgrounds, BAME backgrounds, get the same chances and can get to the top. Too many still face barriers. The government's Parker Review, published in 2016-17 into ethnic diversity in UK boards, a review earlier this year found that 37% of FTSE 100 companies surveyed and 69% of FTSE 250 companies don't have a single ethnic minority director on their boards. So I've been working with the CBI and senior UK leaders on a new campaign supported by our wonderful members called Change the Race Ratio to increase racial and ethnic participation in business. The initial ambition is to get as many FTSE 100 and FTSE 250 businesses as possible to commit to appointing at least one racially or ethnically diverse board member, alongside measures to create a truly inclusive workplace culture where all diversities can thrive at every level of the business. But the work doesn't stop there. The CBI, we've also established a BAME in Tech network to help eliminate bias and discrimination in the UK tech industry, not just in workplaces, but in the software we make, the products we sell, and the algorithms we design. Which brings me to my second priority, science and innovation. Supporting the country's incredible entrepreneurs, startups, and SMEs. This year, we've seen the ingenuity of British business more powerfully than ever before, particularly in the search for the COVID vaccine, with academics at world-class universities, including Oxford and Imperial College, for example, leading the way, partnering with companies like AstraZeneca, GlaxoSmithKline, and Pfizer, for example. Again, collaboration is the key, not just here in the UK, but globally. And we know that India's Serum Institute of India, the largest vaccine manufacturer in the world, stands ready to produce 1 billion vaccines straight away for COVID. 1 billion. Together, these innovations, even in the most uncertain of times, are a cause for hope. But there's much more that we can do to support our innovators, to celebrate our innovators, to create the perfect condition for them to thrive. Whether that's doing more to help firms sell and scale their ideas, improving the support for firms adopting new technology, ensuring the benefits of public investment are more widely felt, or connecting more businesses with universities, nationally and globally. Together, we stand to gain so much. Cures, not just for COVID, but for cancer, for Alzheimer's, for Parkinson's. Innovations that could tackle poverty and deprivation in almost every corner of the globe. And clean, low-carbon technology to confront the climate crisis. And that brings me to my third priority, showing the UK can lead the world in changing and in leading issues like climate change, championing free trade. In 2021, the UK will host the UN's Global Climate Summit, COP26. We will preside over G7 with the CBI chairing the equivalent business summit, the B7, and we will have the world's attention. It's a unique opportunity to show our strengths and to take the lead, setting a global example for the world's energy transition, winning the race to net zero carbon emissions. In fact, the CBI, we've just released, I'm very proud to have chaired, our Heat Commission report, along with the University of Birmingham, where, as I said, I'm proud to be Chancellor, to help decarbonize UK homes and businesses. We know heat makes up over 1/3 of carbon emissions. And unless we address this, we are not going to meet our 2050 net zero target. Once again, we need to collaborate, working with global partners like the Confederation of Indian Industry to drive business action. And India is a leader in solar power. So as our country charts an independent course on trade for the first time in 40 years, the UK has a chance to set the global agenda for free trade and reassert itself as a trading superpower, installing a new national psyche, leading globally to level up locally, helping more UK companies go through exports and investment and boosting productivity and skills, and built on a close partnership between business and government. And that's why it's crucial, as Carolyn Fairbairn said yesterday, that the CBI takes a lead with our recommendation to establish a new National Commission for Economic Recovery. Central to our success, and now more urgent than ever, is the UK securing a deal with the EU as our largest trading partner by far. After 4 years of negotiations and so many hurdles crossed, now is the time to get a deal over the line, not to give up. It's the only outcome that protects COVID-hit livelihoods at a time when every job counts. With both sides still talking, a deal is within reach, and it is achievable. Business needs the UK and the EU to come together, delivering the clarity firms need to ramp up preparations and, crucially, easing the implementation of the Northern Ireland Protocol. Almost 80% of our CBI members are urging for a deal. And if we get this right, I'm certain that in time our economy will bounce back. So once again, why am I so optimistic? Because the best way to predict the future is to look at the past and to study the past. And we don't need to look back too far. Just think back to this summer. Those months when our economy was slowly reopening. Think back to the 4th of July, when restaurants and pubs and bars were allowed to reopen. Look at the boosts that we saw in our GDP. That's how quickly our economy can recover. With mass testing in place and with a vaccine, just imagine what we could do. So I have every confidence that when this pandemic is over, we will bounce back. The treatments that are saving those sad deaths are getting better and better. The vaccine is round the corner, and rapid mass testing is now being implemented. So those are my big priorities: inclusivity, innovation, and global leadership. I mentioned James Joyce earlier. There's another great Irish writer, Seamus Heaney, who said, "The days are getting shorter and colder, but I ask you to remember, even as the winter comes in, there is hope and there is light." To every business tuning in today, the thousands of you, let me say, you are the light. And I said this earlier at the Global India Conference, where I was asked one question over and over again: how has business responded to this crisis? And my answer is this: by putting people first. People are what make us as a country. And this crisis has made us appreciate every doctor, every nurse, every care home worker, every key worker, every business, all of whom have stepped up and contributed. This wonderful country this Great Britain and Northern Ireland, this United Kingdom, a country with the greatest combination of hard and soft power in the world, by far. That's the inspiration. And that's why I can see that sunlight shining at the end of the tunnel. Thank you.
Karan, thank you. Karan, do sit down, because we've got a few minutes, I hope, for some questions. And it was interesting listening to you. I was struck thinking to myself that the job of the CBI is this difficult one, isn't it, of balancing that optimism that you voice and then the realism of the pressures that businesses face. And I suppose the first thing, just picking up on your concluding comments about Brexit, and had it not been for the pandemic, I expect that's all we would have been talking about. So I just wanted to get a sense from you, if there's not a deal, how do you think businesses are going to handle that? And even if there is one, it's going to be a relatively narrow deal. There are going to be large parts of the economy not covered by it. So what would the role of the CBI be in the next steps in our relationships with our trading partners in the EU?
James, the CBI, hand in hand with our members, helping as much as we can. And the advantage that we have is we have this reach throughout the UK. We have our regional directors, we have our regional offices, we have our regional councils. We get feedback right from the ground every day. And that's why the CBI is so powerful. Every sector, every part of the country that we can inform and help, and also inform and help government. And when it comes to Brexit, it's very, very clear. I was chairing our Northern Ireland roundtable recently with our Northern Ireland members, and the insights you get of the issues that need to be sorted out that we never talk about, you never hear about in the press, that we can help government resolve those issues.
And do you hear current people saying, actually, you know what, we've had enough time now to prepare for this, we're ready? Or are you hearing people saying, actually, no deal is a real problem for us?
As I said in my speech, almost 80% of our members say, please, we want a deal. So business wants and needs a deal. And as Carolyn has said, it's a necessity. I mean, she went so far as to say it's a moral necessity that we need this deal. And by the way, it's not just us. Just recently, we had 3 of the leading business organizations, our counterparts in France, Germany, and Italy, who requested a deal from their side. We had 71 of our trade associations. Remember, lots of trade associations are members of the CBI, including National Farmers Union, all sectors, saying, please, to both sides, let's have a deal. So we need a deal. There's no question about it. What I'm also very clear about is that deal can obviously, the more comprehensive, the better. But even if it is a basic deal, which means there's frictionless trade and duty-free, tariff-free movement of goods, if we can have that, we have a platform from which to build, whether it's financial services, movement of people, security, space, all those other things that are part of our relationship, we can build on in the future as long as we get a deal now. And I'm very confident we will get one.
Okay. Well, I don't know whether or not to read into that, Karan. That's your kind of characteristic optimism, or you know something that's about to happen.
No, when Michael Gove says we've got a 66% chance of a deal,
you think that's
I think we're going to get a deal.
Can I touch on something else? We were talking yesterday about the fact that the CBI business leaders now talk about issues like mental health. You can hear that amongst the CEOs, the economists, policymakers, people have got religion on climate. I'm really struck by the extent to which the CBI has weighed in and had to weigh in on the issues of race and diversity. And the numbers you quoted about nearly 70% of the FTSE 250, not having a single black, Asian, minority ethnic person on their board. Why do you think it is that business in the UK, which in so many other senses has kind of engaged with the big social issues of our times, lags behind our society when it comes to race and diversity?
I think you've got to look at this in the whole. Look at how far we've come. When you had the Davies report in 2010 on women on boards, then you had the 30% club, and now look where we are. There are over 33% of women who are members of FTSE 100, FTSE 250 boards. In fact, there's only one FTSE 350 company that doesn't have a woman on their board. So that's the progress that's been made. If you look at the ethnic minority diversity, and that's this change the race ratio that we established. I'm the first ethnic minority president of the CBI in its 60-year history. Carolyn Fairbairn is the first woman director general. It took 55 years to get there. So we are getting there. If I give you examples in Parliament, In 2012, we stood on the steps of Parliament, all the ethnic minority members of both houses, to celebrate 25 years since the 4 ethnic minority MPs were elected in 1987. There were 69 of us on the steps. We took another picture just now after the December elections with Rishi Sunak and Alok Sharma, who was here with us yesterday, and Preeti Patel, and all of us, 3 senior cabinet members. There were 100 of us on the steps. But that's still nowhere near the 15% of the population.
Yes.
We're getting there, though.
I don't know whether or not to listen to that response and think, actually, I should be encouraged by the fact that there is growth, or just quite how slow it is. I mean, that's the thing that's difficult, isn't it? And how much, the targets you set, things like change the race ratio, force a number, and that the number forces change, accelerates that change.
Absolutely. The most important thing here is progress. And the most important thing to remember is that I believe this country, there was a glass ceiling when I came here in the 80s as a student, no question about it. That glass ceiling has now been shattered. And I really believe this country, anyone can get to the top, regardless of race, religion, or background. You just got to make people aware of it. And as you say, we've got targets to measure it. We're starting with the boards, but this is across business and across all businesses with ExCo, ExCo -1, and a pipeline leading to leadership. And of course, people at the top inspire others to achieve. And that aspiration and achievement creates inspiration. It's a virtual circle.
And Karan, we're going to run out of time, but I just want to press you on the opening elements of your speech, which are about business collaboration. We talked yesterday about the possibility of a business sage alongside, if you like, the scientific and medical sage. You've talked about extension of furlough, and you've talked about this commission, particularly the jobs creation focus. What's your message to the Prime Minister, to the Chancellor today about the elements that are needed in an economic package now?
Let's look at how the past 8 months have evolved. At every stage, the government has tried to act quickly, reactively, sometimes proactively. And then what has happened? We have had to come in and say, look, thank you very much, but you haven't thought of this, or we need more. You've done the furlough for the employed. What about the self-employed? The furlough comes to the end of May. It's a cliff edge. They extended to June. You can't have cliff edges rolling the whole time. They listened, and we had the extension until October. The JSS came through in October, so there wasn't a cliff edge at the end of October. Now we need the job retention scheme. So the government has listened. As long as you've got a government that's willing to listen, the most important thing is bring business round that table from the beginning. Ideally, I'd love to have us sitting round the table with the scientists, with the economists, with the business, with the government, with the trade unions, all of us sitting and brainstorming and helping. Even with this mass testing, we've got companies lined up who are ready to implement it, literally lined up across sectors. We can do that. We've got the ability to do that. Our members are there. So if we have that working together, wow, look what we could achieve.
Karan. Lord Bilimoria, thank you very much. Thank you for your address. Thank you for answering the questions. I know you're going to be here, and part of the conversations we're having today and tomorrow, we've got an extraordinary lineup, an amazing set of sessions that are coming for the rest of the day. At 10:30, we're going to be talking with a lineup, as I said, that includes Alison Rose, the Chief Executive of NatWest, Zanny Minton-Beddoes, the editor of The Economist, Stephanie Flanders from Bloomberg, a lineup of people to talk about how Britain is going to earn its way in the world, Britain and its place in the global economy. Please do join us at 10:30, and please do register your questions on the platform. We want to weave in your thoughts into the conversation we're having. But for now, thank you to Lord Bilimoria, and thank you to you for tuning in. See you at 10:30.